a lot of thought, Nick, and I want to run it by you.
Sure.
I think the surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, Mantar. Everything has a more real sports feel, and it gets you invested that much more.
The dude's teeth aren't probably as big either.
It gives it more of a big fight feel. It makes it feel more real. If that glass shatters, I won't be ashamed. There will be happy man tears streaming down my face. Just the goosebumps will be bumped out. I'll hold my arm out like The Rock so you can see my goosebumps. And I'll have happy man tears coming down my face if that glass shatters. Oh, my goodness.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and never wrong, Nick Bull.
Hello, one and all. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, episode 117. Man, we're rocking and rolling 117. Swerve house, bruv. That's right. We're breaking down everything AEW Dynasty on this episode. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my tag team partner of the For Frequency's Sake Network, the co-champs. My tag team partner, the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited. We got some great matches to talk about. I think this is going to be a fun show. We'll have a little discussion about Dynasty.
Absolutely. This show produced a possible match of the year candidate. There were a few champions crowned. It's hard to determine where you want to delve into this card. We were talking about it off air. Where do we start? I think we have to start with what everybody's talking about, and it's that match of the year candidate between Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. You want to have the first remarks on it?
Oh, man. Best match I have seen all year. And it's going to be hard to top. Holy hell. That match had everything you wanted to and more. Little bit sketchy ending with the medical crew looking at Danielson and Ospreay not catching it, but epic match all around. I words escape me. It just such a fantastic showing between these two.
This match was everything you would anticipate between these two guys for an athletic in-ring performance. I'm not trying to poo-poo the match. The match's phenomenal. It's probably going to be match of the year. It's match of the card. It's undoubtedly one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen with two of the best wrestlers out there. They performed. They went above and beyond. They captivated an audience. They captivated an audience to the point where I think people were just awestruck at what they were watching and what they were seeing. Me being one of them, self-admittedly. I have to be the spoiler here. Uh-oh. And could you imagine how much more better this match would be if it had a build?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, phenomenal match. It's going to be match of the year. I don't think anything's going to top it. But I think part of the reason we're comparing apples and oranges here, when you compare this match with Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns from WrestleMania, a match that had like a 2-year build, a lot more story behind it, a phenomenal match in and of itself. I just find it hard. You can't compare it to Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson, a match with two phenomenal wrestlers, two of the top 5 wrestlers in the world, in my opinion, going at it, but with like a month build. I wish AEW would have done a better job of building this. I know a lot of times they think, hey, let's get 2 guys and just throw them in the ring and it'll work. It worked with this. It worked with these two because these two are at the top of their game, two of the best to ever have done it, to have ever do it currently and in the past. I just want to know how much better this match could have been if it had a build.
Oh, for sure. And that is always one of my biggest criticisms about AEW is they don't build matches as they should. They just it feels like the best term I can think of is throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's one of their shortcomings in my opinion. This match was phenomenal, and like you said, probably going to be match of the year. I can't see anything topping it. I'd be surprised if anything does, but yeah, I mean, how much better, how much more invested would we all be had there been some kind of build, had there been some kind of story arc for why these two were fighting?
Now, maybe this is the start of something. Maybe how the match ended starts something to where we get a rematch between these two. Sign me up. I'd love to see it again. Love to see these two go at it again. I was thoroughly enamored with this match. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Not once did I look at my phone during this match.
Nope.
Not once did I think during this match, God, I can't wait till this is over. I didn't want it to end. I think I told you and the other guys we were watching the pay-per-view with, I'm rooting for the guy that's kicking out. I don't want this match to end. I want this match to continue. I was rooting for whatever guy was getting pinned and was kicking out. That's how much I loved this match. That's how much I like both of these guys. Excuse me. I wasn't rooting for one guy or the other. I was happy with the performance that they gave. I don't know how this is going to get touched. I don't know how this is going to get touched for match of the year. It's already being ballyhooed as the best match in AEW history. Some wrestling pundits, Uncle Dave, Brian Alvarez, have gone on to say it's the greatest wrestling match ever on U.S. soil. And I find that hard to say unless you've seen every wrestling match there's ever been.
Yeah.
We all get caught up in hyperbole and we all get caught up as prisoners of the moment sometime, but I've had a couple days for it to wear off. This match is one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. Is it the greatest? I don't know. I can't say that. But I don't think anything's going to touch it for match of the year.
I don't either.
I don't know if I want to see a rematch. You know what I mean? And I'll compare it to HBK Taker. 25 was fantastic. The rematch was good, but it wasn't as good as 25 in my opinion. So
I agree.
If these two fight again, this match is going to be the measuring stick. And I think all matches going forward in AEW will be set to this. And it's a bit unfair because these two are so great. Going forward to compare stuff to this, but Will Ospreay, in the prime of his career still ascending. Danielson's better days are probably behind him. As we know, his in-ring career is not long for this world. As he's announced, he's probably done within the next year or so from being a full-time active participant in ring. But for one night, these two were the best in the world and put on an absolute clinic in athleticism, ringsmanship. The part I love about this match, there was no shenanigans. There was no outside interference. There was nothing from the Don Callis family. It was
Nothing
just
from
two
the
guys
BCC.
going at it. BCC. It was two guys going at it. Wow. I haven't even gone back and watched it yet. I think I'm going to go back and watch it when we're done recording this episode. But for the most part, it's definitely match of the year. And I think it took everything out of the crowd, and rightfully so. The following two matches, the crowd didn't seem to be as full into it as they were during this match. But I think this can be excused. It can be pardoned this time. The crowd not being active for the last two matches when they witnessed Ospreay and Danielson live and in living color right in front of them, and we're just as awestruck as we were watching on pay-per-view.
Absolutely. Let's transition to another match where the fans were very vocal. We're gonna jump around a little bit. Nick, I think you probably can guess which match I'm going to talk about here, where a veteran is taking on an up and coming star again. This match probably went about 10 to 12 minutes, way too long, and the crowd was just so much against the veteran in this match. I'm talking, of course, about Chris Jericho, and I hate to say that. I've been a Jericho fan forever, but I think with the allegations that came up at the beginning of the year and where he's going right now, I think it's time for him to hang it up, and the crowd thought so too, because you got throughout the match chants of please retire, go home Jericho. There may have been a couple of others that I'm forgetting, but those were the two most prominent ones. And to have him win over Hook, I'm sorry. Hook's got to go to NXT now. Hook's got to jump over to WWE, get in NXT, and just better himself that way. Because where can he go? He's going to get swept under the rug like so many other stars in AEW.
The exit to NXT seems ever most apparent now with the way that match ended, with Jericho taking Hook out with a baseball bat, and rather violently. Let me just say, he's had a long, illustrious career. He's done a very good job of reinventing himself. I'm talking about Chris Jericho. He's always done a great job of making himself relevant. But this whole learning tree Jericho, this whole him and Hook hooking up, having their match, being a tag team, you can trust me, you need to learn from me. It's just been cringeworthy to me. It just hasn't been good. It hasn't really clicked. The promos, the in-ring stuff, none of it's really clicked. And I know I poo-poo a lot on AEW and their decisions, but this show was a very good show. I think this would have been the lone black eye on the show, in my opinion, is the Jericho Hook match.
Yes.
Jericho's worked with younger talent in the past.
Done a good job with younger talent in the past.
Done the job with younger talent in the past. I don't know if Hook is going somewhere else, as in WWE or NXT, then okay, I see why they booked the match this way. You write them out this way. You take the FTW belt off him and you take him out with a baseball bat. Okay, I get that if he's leaving. If he's not, I don't know how you bring him back from this. Because I don't know if he gets that rematch right away with Jericho. In my opinion, he doesn't if he sticks around. I don't know what happens if he sticks around. That's the problem. We'll touch on that later when we talk about the main event. If somebody didn't win that main event, I would have felt the same way. What happens with them now? But my question is, and I pose this to the Card Subject to Change crew, the audience, is what's next for Hook? Where do you see Hook going? What do you see Hook doing? How do you bring him back if he stays in the AEW? I think these are all questions that people will probably ask themselves. It's not like I'm coming up with these great questions to share with the audience. I think it's questions that people are all asking themselves, watching that match. It was kind of the crowd definitely did not like it, which is not saying you have to give the crowd everything they want. But chants of please retire, echoing throughout that arena.
Yes.
I don't know. If they were if Hook's gone, I get the booking. I understand it. But if Hook is still around, it's a head scratcher because I do not understand what they were doing or where they were going.
Yeah, I don't either. I think Stryker kind of agrees. He's not sure where Hook is going. Love having Stryker interacting. Love having everybody interact. Like Nick said, if you're watching live, or if you're listening after the fact, leave a comment. Where do you think Hook is going to end up? Where can he end up after this? Because it sure as shit is an AEW, in my opinion.
I don't know. Unless they've got bigger plans for him, I'll reserve judgment. If he's sticking around, I am very interested to see how they bring him back from the way that he was taken out the other night. I really am.
Well, look, Nick, let me ask you, where do you want to go next? What match stands out to you as the next talking point?
You know what? Let's start with the first match of the show, and
Okay.
a match I was really looking forward to watching. We have the Continental Classic title match. Of course, the champion Okada defending against Pac. It's so good to see Pac back in the ring, healthy. Let's hope he can stay healthy and become a big-time contributor now for AEW. He has missed so much time with injuries. I think he had an injury, came back, and suffered another one. So kind of back-to-back injuries for Pac. A guy I really enjoy watching his in-ring work. I think he does a tremendous job of selling for the other guy. He may not be the greatest on the mic, but everything else makes up for it. His in-ring work, his athleticism, his ability. I think he's a top 5 worker in the company, and I think he should be treated as such. And we were treated to an opening match with him and Okada. It kicked off the show. I was expecting a little bit more out of this match. I'm not poo-pooing on it. I thought it was a decent opener. I really did. I could watch these two guys go back and forth at it again. I hope there's a feud between these two. I hope this isn't just the only matchup between Okada and Pac. I thought Pac gave Okada his best match that we've seen Okada have in AEW so far. I know it's a short, limited run, but I think working with better wrestlers, you're going to see that out of Okada. But I really love Pac, his in-ring presence, and I'm glad to see him back on the screen. And I was happy that this kicked off the show. Expected a little bit more out of this match, but figured Okada would retain since he's a recent winner of that Continental Classic belt.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully more. This is the beginning of more and good things for Pac as he's back in the swing of things in All Elite Wrestling.
My question is this, and I want to give a quick shout out to our friend Joe Monroe. Check out his podcast.
Joe, what's going on, bud?
Appreciation Month. Thanks for tuning in. We always appreciate our friends hopping in. I know how you feel about Okada. Not your biggest draw. That's kind of how I feel. But with him being as big as he was in Japan, is he in the wrong title picture? Should he be on a higher title picture?
You want me to start this right now?
Yeah, bring it on.
Why is a big star like him with a secondary title? Why is Adam Edge Copeland with a secondary title? Why is Mercedes Moné now going to be going after a secondary title? You're paying these free agents all this big-time money, these big names. Okada's known around the world. Adam Copeland, Edge, is known around the world. Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, is known around the world. And you're injecting them into mid-card feuds. I just don't understand it. And maybe that's what they want, the wrestlers. And if that's what they want, then so be it. But I'm looking at it as an outsider, as a wrestling fan, with my booking hat on. I'd have all 3 of these people in the main title picture, and that's no offense to who they're going against now. But I just don't get it. I don't get it. You got Adam Copeland as your TNT champ.
Yeah.
Hey, no offense. Sammy Guevara has held that belt 4 or 5 times. Nobody cares. Okay? Nobody cares. All right? And then Mercedes Moné, who's this $10 million contract, and you're going to throw her into the mid-card title for the TBS, not taking away from Willow Nightingale. You know I'm a big Willow Nightingale fan. But I don't know. I just think throwing these secondary titles on these bigger names instead of injecting them into the main storyline for the main title is just, they missed the bus, in my opinion, with these 3 so far.
And I'll kind of piggyback off of what Joe said in the comments. It feels very much like 2000 WCW overall with AEW. But look at the names you mentioned. Edge, Adam Copeland, former world champion. Mercedes Moné, former world champion. Okada, former world champion in Japan. Am I wrong?
No.
Why are they this low on? Okay, I'm not.
I can't be the only one that thinks this. I can't be the
I'm
only one that thinks, what are they
No.
doing with these people with mid-card titles? I mean, so many other people have got to see this too.
We're not poo-pooing at all about Okada being in the opening match. That stigma is long gone. It was a great opener. It was a good way to start the show. But why do you have former world champions on a secondary title? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. It remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. Maybe, and like I said, unless the wrestler is specifically wanting that, then we really can't say. But as an outsider looking in, I mean, it's a glaring omission to me. You got these big names that aren't in the title picture. Whereas, you could have, not to take away from Thunder Rosa, but you could have had Timeless Tony Storm, Mercedes Moné.
Yeah,
or maybe
absolutely.
we're going to get that. Maybe we're going to get that coming up later, but we're not going to get that at Double or Nothing, as we'll talk about here in a little bit. But Okada and Pac opening the show, I don't look at that as a demotion or anything. I never look at the opening match as, oh, these guys can't handle the main event picture. Honestly, I was pumped that was the opening match. Two guys that could go out there and bang and get the crowd into it. And they did. They did a really good job. It was a good opener. I'm sure Uncle Dave will give it more stars than what I gave it, but I thought it got the job done and got the crowd involved, got the crowd, in motion for the show. And I liked the opener. I had no problems with it.
And I want to circle back to a point you made about maybe this is what the wrestlers want. We'll talk about this match next, but the only one that I can make a serious argument for and believing that maybe this is what the wrestler wants to do would be Adam Copeland. Adam Copeland is got to be nearing his official retirement since coming back. He's getting up there. He's not as spry as he used to be, and that's not to take anything away from him. But maybe he wants to be with the TBS title to put over or to help build those younger stars. Look at
and that very well may be the case. That very well may be the case. And if that is the case, more power to him if that's what he wants to do. But I mean,
but you look at Okada, who's in his prime. I don't think he wants to be in a secondary title match. I think he wants to be in the main event. I'd want to be in the main event if I was a former world champion.
Yeah, I'd want to be mentioned. And I mean, before Edge won it, it was Christian. I mean, they had their number one heel wrapped up in a secondary title. I mean, Christian went on a hell of a run. Being the whole fatherly figure thing to Kill Switch and to Nick Wayne, and then bringing on Nick Wayne's mom as part of that group. That was gold. And to me, that could have been used on a main title picture. Christian's a world champ wherever he went. Probably one of the most underappreciated wrestlers, I think, on that roster.
Yes.
Former NWA world champion, former world heavyweight champion in WWE. He's won gold wherever he's went. He's on one of the greatest tag teams in WWE history with Edge. That's a guy that could have been in the main event picture. He and Edge did a good job of elevating the TNT title. At the end of the day, instead of just beating a dead horse here, I think we can agree that there's way too many titles in AEW.
Yes, absolutely.
And trying to put them in a ranking of hierarchy or whatever is mind-numbing because, in my opinion, you've got your world title, you got your tag titles, and then you should have a secondary title. And then maybe if you wanted to have like a TV title, I get that. Okay. I get having 4 titles with the inflated roster that you have. But look how many, all these matches on this card were for a title, except for the 6-man with House of Black against Mark Briscoe, Eddie Kingston, and Adam Copeland, and the Ospreay Danielson match. There's just too many titles to properly care for each title. Do you know what I'm saying?
And not only that, but there were 3 singles titles in that trios match that you just mentioned. Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe all have their own singles title.
Yes.
Now, Eddie Kingston,
Mark,
be forgiven.
Mark Briscoe, your Ring of Honor
title.
champion. Eddie Kingston, the New Japan
New
Japan Pro Strong title holder, and Edge is your TNT title holder. Yeah, I mean, there's too many belts to care, in my opinion, and that waters down the product in my mind. When everybody's carrying a belt around, which ones are you supposed to care for? Exactly. I know which ones I care for, which ones I look out for, but as the outsider looking in as a wrestling fan, what are you supposed to care or watch for? I'm baffled with how many titles they have.
Stryker, of course, chiming in again. Great comment. Trying to say that each title is special. It's not. It's ridiculous. 100%. I mean, like you said, Nick, 4 titles max, I think, is a great number for your world, your secondary, your tag team, and maybe a TV title. Now, that's just on one side of the roster. For the women, women are really up and coming in this business. Maybe have 2 titles for them. You don't necessarily need a women's tag titles like the WWE has, although I'm not negating them having it. It waters the product down and it makes titles meaningless. You know, people like, I saw an old comment from the big guy. I think you know who I mean, former WWE star, saying that titles are just props. And it very much has that feel in AEW.
We haven't even mentioned the 0 hour where you had the Ring of Honor 6-man champs against the AEW 6-man champs, and you had a title unification. So there were more belts that are out there. There's just too many titles to wrap your head around. And I don't see it going away. I don't see the number of titles going away. I just don't.
No.
But they need to really self-evaluate or reevaluate and find how I'm playing the character of AEW now. We need to find out how we can make each title special, and so people care. That's where I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. Right now, how can I care about the world title when you have 1,200 other titles being defended? Make them mean something.
Yeah, this is coming from a guy who loves belts. I love championship titles. I love seeing all the different ones, but way too many, in my opinion. And they need to trim the fat on some of these titles, limit them down, and make the ones that they have matter so that people can acknowledge and respect them.
Yes. That being said, Nick, I think this is a good time for us to kind of take a step back,
Agreed.
Take a break to pay homage to our sponsors. If you're tuned in live, we appreciate you. If you're tuned in after the fact, we appreciate you. This is Card Subject to Change, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook, Country Financial. We will be right back here in just a moment.
Football season may be over, but for frequency's sake still has you covered for all your sporting needs. Tune in every Sunday when the best professional wrestling podcast around, Card Subject to Change, gets you caught up on everything inside the ropes. They won't miss a count with weekly analysis and interviews. More into auto racing? We've got a double dose for you on the track. Tune in to Fast Money with Rod Villagomez each week and win some money with the quickest bets in all of sports. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast where they give their their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your basketball fix? Points in the Paint has you covered, with live shows every other week looking at everything in the association. Backed by popular demand, we have the return of The Payoff Pitch, FFSQC's baseball show, covering you on news around the MLB. If you're missing football, don't fret. Mark and Dan still have you covered in the football lounge. Missing Joe Winkle? Probably not, but he's still here talking sports on Educated Ignorance. Football season might be over, but we've still got you covered. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
For Frequency's Sake is brought to you by Durham Remodeling, serving the Quad City area's remodeling and repair needs since 1973. Clint's Draft House, grab a bite and a pint. 7th Street Moline. Low Pies, New York-style pizza served up by the slice or pie, Davenport. Lifted Energy, energy drinks, coffee, donuts, and more. #GetLifted. Atomic Sports Cards and Collectibles. Sports cards and memorabilia, vintage clothing, hats, pennants, and more. Ryan Allison Tattoo. Step into the vibrant world of tattoos with Ryan Allison. And A Cut Above, offering quality custom woodwork designed specifically around our customers.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
Just a quick reminder to our fans out there who didn't catch our last episode, episode 116. It is out and available streaming where you find your podcasts. We had on Connor Hopkins of Those Damn Coyotes of Dreamwave Wrestling. Episode 116, good as gold. It was good as gold. I'm not going to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it or heard it yet. There's a definite surprise in there. So go back, listen to it, or watch it on YouTube, wherever you stream or watch this show. We appreciate it. But episode 116, good as gold, is out right now. We recorded it just a couple days ago. Had a good time with Connor Hopkins. But you are listening to the Card Subject Change podcast, the podcast by the fan, for the fan. I'm your host, Never Wrong, Nick Bull. Joining me is my tag team partner, the one, the only, the Wizard CZ. And Wiz, I don't know where we go from here. I guess let me pick the next match. I got some more to get off my chest. I feel like I'm in confession right now. This is your father Wizard, and I'm the young pupil that's the sinner that's repenting here. But I'm going to talk about the ladder match for the tag team titles between the Young Bucks and FTR. My opinions on the Young Bucks have been stated on this show before. As people, I can't stand them. Their in-ring work, I won't take anything away from them. I think they're a phenomenal tag team. They bring so much to the tag division. They've revolutionized themselves, not only on the indie scene, but in forming the AEW with Cody. I got a lot of respect for them in that manner. FTR, I've made myself known on that. I'm a huge FTR fan. I'm a fan of the throwback tag teams that do it with simplicity. No flips, just fists, kind of their motto. They've done a great job wherever they go. They strike a chord with me, and I tend to like them more than I do the Young Bucks. With that being said, these two went out there and put on a spectacular ladder match. I was thoroughly entertained. I fully expected the Bucks to win. Spoiler alert, the Bucks do win. We kind of got a run in at the end, but I just want to say for Matthew and Nicholas and Dax and Cash, what a phenomenal tag team ladder match these four put on. Some of the risks they take, some of the moves they pulled off is just incredible. Hats off to all four of these guys. I thought it was a great match until the ending, and here's why. They could have brought Jack Perry in on Dynamite. I understand They want to make the big splash on pay-per-view. But I see why they did it, because they're blaming FTR for their loss at All In because they were worried about their friend Jack Perry. Jack Perry comes out, knocks Dax off the ladder. In the confusion of Jack Perry getting corralled and handcuffed for trespassing, the Bucks are able to climb the ladder and get the belts. Now, you can see the writing on the wall. 1 and 1 and 1 is 3. The Bucks are definitely going to be welcoming in Jack Perry into their fold. And now you've got these major heat seekers. And is it good heat, or is it like the X-Pac Chris Jericho go away heat? I'm here if it's heat in a good way. I really am. But if they're going to dwell on this footage, paint him as the scapegoat as he's calling himself, I'm not sure if I'm here for it. Maybe tuning out those segments, but I'm willing to go into Wednesday night with an open book, clear slate to see how they spin this. But to say I was majorly disappointed at the ending of that match, I was bummed, but regardless, a hell of a match. I know you weren't too happy about the ending, but I'm willing to give it a shot, give it a chance to see where it goes.
That's fair. You said that Jack Perry could have returned on Dynamite. For all I care, Jack Perry could have returned on AEW Dark Elevation, which is not even a thing anymore.
I don't think they do that anymore.
It's not.
That used to be a thing.
I don't like him as a person. I don't like him as a talent. I don't like any of this stuff that they're doing. Just let go. Punk is gone. You don't need to re-air the footage that happened 6 to 9 months ago. You don't need this as a storyline. There are better ways to do that. And you mentioned whether Jack Perry is going to have the good kind of heat or the go-away heat. It's the go-away heat, in my opinion, and I'll stick by that to the day I die.
You know, as much as they keep bringing up the fight and the way they brought him in, it's almost like the little brother inferiority complex. Like they know they're never going to measure up to Big Brother WWE, which I'm not here to say one's better than the other. I watch both of them. I like parts about both of them. I dislike parts about both of them. But what's mind-numbing to me is some of the pettiness that happens in one of the companies and just the fact of not being able to get over things and move on and be professional. But like I said, I'm willing to go into Wednesday night. I'm anxious to see how they spin this. Of course, as an FTR fan, I want to know what's next for my team, where they go next. Because, Double or Nothing is just about a month away from the time that we record this, CZ. One of their bigger shows of the year, Memorial Day weekend. So a lot can happen between now and then. I'm just interested to see how they spin this with Jack Perry. How does FTR get back with their revenge? Do they bring somebody on and into their fold to take on the Bucks and Jack Perry now that they're outnumbered? I'm not sure. But yeah, you're right. And Regal's right. Now that Jack Perry is back, let's just move on. You're right. I agree. Let's move on. Let's see what they got. I said I'm willing to accept he's back. I want to see what they do. But Dynasty did feel like a refresh, and I agree. With the exception of that Jericho Hook match, I really enjoyed the whole card. I don't know where you want to go next, or if you have any more thoughts, CZ, on the ladder match.
I mean, I asked you this on Sunday, and I'll ask you it again on air. Several months ago, FTR's contract was coming up, and they re-signed with AEW. With the way things have been handled recently, do you think they regret that decision?
I mean, when they re-signed, Punk was still with the company. So, no, Punk wasn't still with the company. Punk had already left. Do they have regrets? If I'm an FTR, I do. With how things are being run, how things are being spun, but you also got to assume that they have some control and some call on what's being said and what's being done and the direction things are going. At the time that they re-signed with AEW, WWE wasn't in its current form, where we see kind of a friendlier, more welcome environment. Triple H loves tag teams. Vince didn't. So you're seeing more of that. So do they have regrets? If I was an FTR, I would be having regrets, but I can't speak for them, but I could see where they might.
Absolutely. And I think, how can you not in hindsight, but at the same time, it is what it is. And like we've said, let's treat this as a refresh. Let's move forward, not dwell on the past, and see where we go. I'm okay with seeing where we go. Uh, and looking here, let's talk about the shortest match on the card, because I got to give some love to. I know you're a big fan of her. I'm a big fan of her. I'm also a big fan of her opponent. Uh, let's talk about the TBS title match. Short match, but well put together, in my opinion. And I think the right person came away. As much as I'm a huge fan of Julia Hart, particularly her entrance music, I think it's just the way she comes to the ring is just very well done. I think the right person walked away with the TBS title.
Yeah, the TBS title had done what it needed to for Julia Hart. A year ago, Julia Hart's a cheerleader, or 2 years ago, she's a cheerleader in a tag team that's really not going anywhere. Now she's part of a group that's very image driven and very presentation driven, and she really adapted to that role as a younger, hotter Stevie Nicks coming out with her new get up and the house always wins music and dressing like a witch. She really rose up the card. That title elevated her. People didn't take her seriously before that title. So that title run, I think, was a good run for Julia Hart. Now, it takes place that they take the belt off her and they give this to Willow Nightingale. And I think Willow has grown leaps and bounds since she's come to the company a couple years ago. I love her matches. I think she's a good worker. I think she's a good character. And they undoubtedly wanted to get the belt off Julia and on Willow so they could have this feud with Mercedes Moné and Willow. If you go back to New Japan, they had a match where they were crowning the first ever women's strong champion. Mercedes Moné breaks her ankle. I think they changed it on the fly, and Willow wins that match and becomes the champion. That's what you're looking at now, is Willow and Mercedes.
And Regal with a very good point. The match may have been short due to Julia Hart dealing with an injury, and that also is a good catalyst for her to get the title off of her and onto Willow. But Willow and, like you said, Mercedes Moné have a history together and have a beef with each other, so it makes sense why that's the next feud. But like we were talking about before the break, it doesn't make sense that Mercedes Moné is in the picture for that title as a former world champion, at least in my opinion, and I know yours.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, it's for a mid-card title, and no offense to Willow, but they want to strike while the iron's hot and get this feud with Mercedes and Willow underway. It's officially been named as the first match to Double or Nothing a little over a month away. They had the caveat, if Willow is still champion, these two will wrestle for the TBS title at Double or Nothing. So you got one match on the Double or Nothing card. I don't know. Another point here. What do you guys think about the promo with Julia and Brody, where Brody said, "Now we rebuild"? Good question, because Julia lost, but if you want to look at the 6-man tag, the House of Black won. They were victorious against Mark Briscoe, Eddie Kingston, and Adam Copeland. There's been much talk about Malachi Black and what's going to happen when his contract comes up, how he's disgruntled and doesn't want to lose for certain people. But the House of Black goes out and wins in a 6-man tag, which is very surprising. I thought for sure the face team was going to win due to the reports we've been reading about the House of Black's future uncertain. I don't know what's going to happen with Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, Brody King. I don't know their contract situations. I just know Malachi's name just keeps coming up. We know Buddy Matthews is the real life boyfriend to Rhea Ripley. I don't know if that changed things to, come over there and work with her in WWE or be with her in WWE. I don't know. But the "now we rebuild" comment, Regal, is very interesting. Do they add a member? Do they get rid of a member? It's very, very interesting. The House of Black has always piqued my interest with their matches, their presentation. I think all three guys are unique in the ring. They all offer something different to that team. I'm a fan of all three of those guys' work in the ring. I don't turn over their matches. I'm entertained by them. The theatrics are cool. As we got some theatrics to end the 6-man tag, the mist into Copeland's face, which tells me that Malachi Black and Copeland are going to feud for a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe they do rebuild, and they rebuild bigger and better. It's a good question. What do you think, CZ?
I can definitely see that. And like you were talking about, a lot of speculation on Malachi Black particularly, but I've also heard speculation on Buddy Matthews possibly jumping over to WWE when the contracts are up. The fact that it was Brody and Julia in that promo, I think is very foretelling, because we just don't know at this point. This could be a rebuilding era, and maybe we see some people changed out. Maybe Brody King starts looking for new talent to recruit, and trims the fat, so to speak, by getting rid of Malachi and Buddy Matthews. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be an interesting time for that group and the dynamic there for sure.
Yeah, just touching on that 6-man match real quick. I thought I was entertained. Good 6-man match. You never know what you're going to get when you get three guys kind of thrown together on a team like we saw with Copeland and Kingston and Briscoe, but they all three seem to work well. I like the House of Black style. I like what they do. I was entertained by this match. Had nothing against it. And I actually was surprised when we saw the Mist and Malachi get the 1, 2, 3. So kind of promising to see that him and Edge will work together. Sign me up. I'll watch those two wrestle any day of the week. I got no problem with either one of those guys. I think they're both good. And we'll see what goes from there. I mean, hopefully this is one of those fresh storylines we get coming out of Dynasty.
And I want to point out Stryker's comment. We've seen Adam Copeland in control of a darker faction. What if he takes over the House of Black and Malachi leaves for WWE? I think that could be an interesting twist.
Yeah, it could be his second go-round. Was control of Judgment Day once upon a time. Yes, that's right. Adam Copeland was the leader of Judgment Day once upon a time. That just seems so long ago now that we've seen him come over to AEW and have some success like he has and become the TNT champion. But very interesting. The possibility is there, I'm sure.
So I want to switch gears to the 900th championship match that AEW had on this show. I want to talk about our two of my favorites in Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, these two put on a hell of a match. And that international title, I think if you're going to keep a secondary title, the international one is the one to keep, in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
It seems to have the most build, the most prestige, comparatively to like the FTW title, the TNT title. Those are just like you said about Sammy Guevara holding that title 3 or 4 times. Who cares?
Yeah, Orange Cassidy did a tremendous job of kind of putting this title on the map, going out there and defending it every week. Almost the pseudo TV title. I mean, it was on TV every week there for a while, being defended in the main events. Orange Cassidy did a really good job until, dropping it to Roderick Strong. Before Danielson and Ospreay, Strong and O'Reilly was my match of the night.
I completely agree.
These guys have some history, obviously, from NXT. They're obviously real-life friends, been in each other's lives. They know each other really well. I think that makes for a better match when you really know your opponent. You got that story. You got that story to back up what's going on, and they know each other's movesets. So they've got that history with each other, and I think fans were invested from the get-go. After Kyle O'Reilly's return recently from a long injury, he was on the shelf for quite some time. This match had some build. Props to AEW for that. O'Reilly's coming back, and the whole time strong. And the Undisputed Kingdom were trying to court him to join them, and O'Reilly wants to go on his own. So they turned on him and beat him down. So then you get this match for the international championship. So I was a big fan of this match. I really was. I thought these two really laid it all out there. I know some people might have thought it was a little bit longer, but I'm glad this match was a little bit longer than say Jericho Hook, because there's a good story here, and I love both these guys. I love Roderick Strong going back to Ring of Honor, the Messiah of the Backbreaker. Kyle O'Reilly. How can you not love a guy who's been out for so long and he's finally getting back in the ring and showing you what he's worth and his wherewithal? I love this match. It was my match of the night until we got that match of the year, maybe the match of the decade nominee from Ospreay and Danielson. But man, these two really left it out there, and looking forward to going back and watching this match again.
Can we talk about the real story coming out of this match and the look, the daggers that Adam Cole was staring into Wardlow as they came out to celebrate with Roddy?
Right. We get Adam Cole to stand up and walk out of the wheelchair. So he is walking unaided, which is a good sign to see. I think we're all want Adam Cole to come back. Wrestling is better with Adam Cole around, in my opinion. Definitely being the leader of the Undisputed Kingdom, has a presence, a great stage presence, a great presence in the ring. And yes, staring daggers into Wardlow. Wardlow came down to help Roderick Strong win, did not interfere as the ref kind of caught them and pushed them back. But you could tell the disdain, the hatred, almost the disappointment that Cole has for Wardlow as we build towards that match. Sign me up. I like Wardlow. I think he's a sleeping giant. They need to do something with him. We've seen what he can do when the lights are bright and he's put into a main event type picture. We've seen what he can do. Sure, like everybody else, he needs some mic work. But him and Adam Cole, I'm all for it. I can't wait to see this feud.
For sure, I agree. Sorry about that.
I
agree. Thank you. Adam Cole is one of the best workers out there. I loved his work in NXT with the Undisputed Era. I kind of have a feel of the Undisputed Era with the whole Kyle O'Reilly scenario and them trying to bring him in. Only it's kind of turned a little bit where it was Roderick Strong in NXT that they were trying to bring into the group, as opposed to Kyle O'Reilly now.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, say that again. I got to wrap my mind around that again.
Okay, so one of the big storylines with the Undisputed Era in NXT was them trying to bring in Roderick Strong. It was Roddy against the world forever.
Yes, it was. Yes,
and
it
then
was.
In the final match of the Dusty Classic, you have Roddy and Pete Dunne against the Undisputed Era, and Roddy makes the big turn to join the group finally.
Yep.
I kind of see the same seeds being planted, although I don't know if they'll go the same way. I hope they don't.
I hope they don't. But I hope Kyle O'Reilly stays as a single and kind of takes them on his own. Maybe eventually gets the help of Wardlow. How can you not remember or forget the match from Stand and Deliver NXT 2 or 3 years ago with Cole and O'Reilly? The street fight or last man stand. I can't remember the stipulation, but it was a war between those two.
Yes.
I think we could get something like that again. So I personally hope O'Reilly stays as a single and gets some help from other people to take on the Undisputed Kingdom. I don't want to see him join the Undisputed Kingdom.
I don't either, but it feels very similar. A lot of the same circumstances here.
Yeah, I see where you're coming. I see where you're coming from with that.
But I agree. I think Kyle O'Reilly should stay a single and maybe build his own group to combat the Undisputed Kingdom. I think that'd be a really cool storyline. And it just depends on whether or not AEW can tell the story, which we've talked about earlier. They don't really tell good stories.
We're not looking to finish the story here, AEW. Just tell us a story. Just tell me a story. And I like what they've got going with these guys. I hope this continues.
One thing that is really good storytelling isn't necessarily a build to a match, but it is character building with one timeless Toni Storm. The development of Toni since she became timeless has just been outstanding. I can't think of which episode it was off the top of my head. It was the one where we recapped World's End, I believe, where we had Joe Winkle on the show.
Yep.
And the after pay-per-view scrum, Toni Storm hands Tony Khan a note, or she not personally delivers a note to Tony Khan, and go back and listen to Joe Winkle read that in Toni Storm's voice.
It was good. It was good. You're right. They've hit a home run with Toni Storm, or Toni Storm's hit a home run by really fully engaging, engulfing herself in this character. The 30s, 40s movie starlet, dramatic, over the top, the black and white entrance, the black and white screen when she did her finish,
the split screen
filter when she did her finish for the win. Props to Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa's had quite the comeback ever since coming off injury. She's more featured on Collision. If you're not familiar with seeing, if you don't watch Collision, she's more on Collision. I thought she had a really good match. I thought Thunder Rosa had a decent match. The stars are aligning for a Toni Storm Mariah May match where, the stalker finally wants to take down the star, and it's going to be good. If you've ever seen Mariah May's stuff from Stardom, if you haven't been impressed with her in-ring stuff at AEW, just go look at her stuff from Stardom. She can go. And when they eventually have that match, Toni Storm and Mariah May, it's going to be excellent. And I love what they've done with this character. They've done something right here. And props to Toni Storm and AEW for doing such a great job with it and keeping it interesting and making me want to watch to see what she does next.
For sure. I completely agree. It's just been a fun ride to watch from start to finish. Even when she was with, what were they called, Nick? Help me out. The group with Saraya and Ruby Soho.
Oh, don't put me on the spot.
Okay. Whatever they were called.
Oh, what were they?
Started forming in Tony's.
Whoever's listening out there, if you're watching, listening, please tell us what the name of that group was, because I forget. Gosh, I feel like a buffoon here. It was
I do too.
Toni Storm, Saraya, Ruby Riott. What were they? I can't remember. If somebody could help us, I would appreciate it. Regal, Striker, if you're there, would really appreciate it.
We're tagging you boys in.
We're tagging you. We got the hot tag here. The Outcast. Thank you, Ryan Howard. Thank you. Thank you. Our good buddy Ryan Howard, who we've had on for New Japan Pro Wrestling coverage right around Wrestle Kingdom, bails us out. Thank you, Ryan. You are the man. That's right, the Outcast. She's much more interesting now as timeless Toni Storm than she ever was.
Where I was going with that, though, is the cracks started forming when she was with the Outcasts. The whole regression or progression, however you want to put it, into this old time character started when the Outcasts started to break apart. And just from that moment when she, I don't know, I don't remember if she hit her head or what happened, but when the cracks started forming up here for Toni Storm to go revert back to 1940s glam girl, Hollywood glam girl, to now, it's the best thing AEW has going for it right now.
I really popped during the match when Nigel McGuinness, in his British accent, chin up, tits out. Nigel is so good on commentary. That's something I failed to mention when we talked about the Ospreay Danielson match. Nigel's disdain for Bryan Danielson is great. He just refuses to put him over, refuses to acknowledge him. He's a clam digger
Danielson.
Excuse me. I just had to give props to Nigel. Nigel's my all-time favorite Ring of Honor wrestler. personality. And I just love that he still has it out for Danielson. They had some wars back in Ring of Honor. If you got access to Honor Club or to those old Ring of Honor DVDs, look them up. Those two put on some classics, but Nigel refusing to put over Bryan Danielson cracks me up.
Yes, very entertaining. I love Nigel on commentary. I think he's brilliant. And it's a good move that he's there. I'm happy for him to be there.
Yes, I am too.
Nick, we started this show off with the hottest match on the card. We're going to end it with the hottest moment on the card, in my opinion.
Okay.
And that is the crowning of whose house?
Swerve's house, bruv. Episode 117.
Powered by Low Price Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook, Country Financial, card subject to change.
The podcast for the fan by the fan. We sound like the micro. Remember the Micro Machine commercials when we were kids? Micro Machine.
Yes.
That's what we sounded like there. But yeah, you want to talk about Swerve and Joe? Let's talk about it.
I mean, here's the thing. You and I talked extensively about this off air. If Swerve did not win the title Sunday night, 3 months tops before he is completely swept under the rug, this was a must-win scenario for Swerve and for AEW. I think if AEW had not pulled the trigger on Swerve, I don't even know. I'd be close to being done, because that's the how many different stars have they risen to the top only to bring them crashing down? Wardlow, Ricky Starks, and there are countless others that I could name that have been somewhere up at the top of the card and now are just, what have you done for me lately?
This moment and match was very bittersweet for me. I'm happy for Swerve. I'm so happy for him. I think now's the right time. He's the right guy for it. He is so over. The dance, whose house, Swerve's house, having Prince Nana with him, a Ring of Honor original. I love everything about Swerve. I love his moveset, his in-ring presence, his promos. He's spot on. It's bittersweet for me because I love Samoa Joe. And I hope history doesn't look back and see Joe as a transitional champion, because I don't think Joe was. Joe ended the longest reign in AEW title history by taking the title off MJF. Defended it like the badass that he was, and had this collision course with Swerve. This kind of started back when MJF was being protected by Samoa Joe in the backstage area, and Swerve and MJF had their little promo, and Samoa Joe comes in at the end. So nice to see that come full circle. But I'm not poo-pooing on Swerve. I'm very happy for him. Noted he's the first African-American AEW world champion, and props to him for that. It's a great accomplishment. The guy has put in the work. But as Stryker says here, I agree, Stryker. Now I'm waiting for Swerve versus MJF. I hope so. I hope we get that. Lord knows when MJF's going to be back, if he does come back with contract or with surgery. I hope we see this match, as they definitely teased it long ago. It'd be a good form of long-term storytelling if they did. It'd be and props to AEW if they do that. But I'm so happy for Swerve. I just felt this match dragged a little bit. It went a little bit longer than it needed to. I'm not poo-pooing on it, though. I loved the match. I loved the guys. Felt the crowd was maybe a little bit out of it after Danielson, Ospreay, and that ladder match. They had their post-match cigarette and maybe didn't get into this match than towards the end of it. But props to Swerve. I can't wait to see what's next. We were talking about it off air, tonight, and then when we watched the pay-per-view Dynasty the other night. Who's Swerve's first opponent going to be? Who's his first program going to be? And I'm glad we're having this discussion instead of, if Swerve lost, what now? Because he would have been washed aside, in my opinion. There wouldn't have been anything for him. I'm happy he's the champion. I was a fan of his when he was Isaiah Swerve Scott in NXT. Even had that lousy, he was even part of Hit Row And now he's climbed out of all that, and here he is, the AEW World Champ, and I couldn't be happier for him. I'm pumped for Swerve and what happens next for him, and I can't wait to see who's lined up to take him on in this first feud.
Yeah. I went into that match. My exact thoughts were, I don't want Joe to lose the title, but I don't want Swerve to not win. So it was hard to see. It was hard to say. Stryker with a good point here. Maybe Will Ospreay will be next in line for the title, and I could see that happening. I think tentative. If I were booking things, I would wait for Ospreay to the build to All In, which is again in Wembley, and have Ospreay win the title there. But maybe we have a longer build for that. Maybe AEW will do something right and build a story around Swerve and Ospreay.
They may, and let's give them their flowers while we can with Dynasty. Dynasty was a quality show. Like Regal said earlier in the comments, it was a refresh for AEW. And there were so many AEW talent that weren't even on this card. And it was still a quality, good card. You know, you didn't have your Mox. You didn't have your Claudio. You didn't have your Lucha Brothers. You didn't have Hangman Adam Page. There's so many others. We made a list the other night. I think we were 9, 10, 11, 12 names that, could have been on this card that weren't. Obviously you don't have MJF on this card. But it was a refresh. It was a good show. Not every show is going to have every great match is going to be on there. I think we agree that the Jericho Hook match was kind of a stinker, but the rest of the show did what it was supposed to do. We got that match of a lifetime candidate. We got a new champion with Swerve. We got new tag champs with the Bucks. We got a new TBS champion. So some fresh things are going to come about from this pay-per-view. And I think that's what's great about this is that there's the great unknown, what's going to happen with Jack Perry, all of that. So we got all these questions coming out of it, and it's good to have questions that are unanswered. That's what's great about this. We got something to talk about on our show then. If all of these questions were answered, it'd be kind of boring, but Dynamite tomorrow night's going to be very interesting, what they do with the show. We're going to possibly see Swerve's new feud, what happens with the Bucks and Perry. It's going to be interesting, and props to AEW for putting on a classic. It'll go down as a classic show because of the Ospreay Danielson match. But yeah, looking forward to it. I can't wait to see where a lot of this stuff goes next.
I'm plugged in. I can't wait to see what Dynamite brings us and the future. And I'm just, as always, ever hopeful that they don't drop the ball. That's always my hope with AEW is don't drop the ball.
Yeah, keep the things that are good going and, bring along another couple of good things, and you're going to have something good here. They got something good here coming out of this pay-per-view. Let's hope they can continue this momentum. I 2 thumbs up on this pay-per-view. I thought it was a really good pay-per-view, and props to AEW for that. I really did. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Nick, we've talked about everything we can talk about on Dynasty, so I think it's time to wrap the show up. Want to give a shout out to our friends over at SCW Pro. If you live in the Quad Cities, they have their biggest event of the year coming up this Saturday in the Bluegrass Coliseum. The Bluegrass Community Center, sorry. I'm throwing back to Walcott. That is going to be epic. Come see a lot of our former guests wrestle for everything in the world at the biggest show of SCW Pro. We look forward to seeing you there. We'll both have a presence. Coming up on Sunday, we are interviewing a man from Iron Spirit Pro who was recommended by our good friend DB. That is going to be Zach Abstract. He'll be joining us in the studio. We'll learn all about his wrestling journey. We have Sabotage coming on, another Iron Spirit Pro wrestler coming up in the next couple of weeks. But after Backlash, Nick, we kind of teased it a little bit, and I'm not going to tell you. Go back and watch our Connor Hopkins episode, number 116, Good as Gold, in our archives on YouTube. While you're there, give us a like, share, and subscribe. But go back. We got a little teaser of what's coming up the week after Backlash, or maybe
if you want to know a future guest, they make an appearance in the Connor Hopkins episode 116, Good as Gold. So if you want to know who a future guest will be on the podcast, look no further than episode 116. Looking forward to Epic on Saturday night. It's going to be a nice, looks like the weather's going to be nice this weekend. Going to be a good night for wrestling. Obviously, it's an indoor show at the Blue Grass Community Center. The place is going to be packed. Get there early if you can. Epic is going to be off the chain. It is going to be unreal. I'm looking forward to that rematch between Manders and Cornboy. They had possibly the match of the year in SCW so far earlier this year, but now they're going to have the rematch for the Iowa Championship. So really looking forward to that. The main event between Devil Dog and Mean Mason Beck is going to be great after that contract signing a couple shows ago. I mean, the whole card is stacked, and I'm telling you what, it's going to be great. Looking forward to seeing everybody out there. If you see us, stop and say hello. Looking forward to interacting with the fans. It's going to be a fun show, and definitely looking forward to it. They've done a great job, of SCW Pro has, of building this show.
They really have. That is going to put a wrap on this week's episode. Thank you all if you tuned in live. We appreciate you being here. Thank you all if you tuned in after the fact. We appreciate you being here. Give us a like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends about us. Hit us up on YouTube. That is where you can find our entire archive of episodes, whether they be video or audio only. We are all there. But for my tag team partner, did you want to say something, Nick?
I wanted to say something. Without our sponsors, we couldn't do this. So one last word. We were powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. Without these guys, we couldn't be able to do that. We wouldn't be able to do this. Thank you so much. We are the podcast for the fan, by the fan. And we pride ourselves on that, and our fans help us and make us who we are. So we're very appreciative of that.
Very appreciative. Love all of you guys being able to join us. Tune in every week. We will see you on Sunday with Zach Abstract. But until then, for my tag team partner, he is never wrong, Nick Bull. I am the Wizard CZ. You have been tuned in to Cards Subject to Change.